Hey guys, it's Kimberly from the Fat Quarter Shop, and I've got Cecile from Just Another Button Company, and she's going to give us some tips on how to attach buttons to your projects. But first, I want her to tell you a little bit about the Just Another Button Company hand-dyed packs that we sell at Fat Quarter Shop. So tell me a little bit about these.
Okay, we have a program called Button Up, and it repeats 35 colors in 4 different kinds of packaging so that there's a package of buttons, the perfect button for any project. This is called the Party Pack. It's a button party in a box. You can tell that there's more than one shade of yellow in there. This one's actually called Lemon Drop. We tried to come up with fun names for all the colors. So 2 shades of Lemon Drop, and then a Lemon Drop you can see again right here. This one is a smoothie pack. See how it has a smooth matte finish? People who do applique, cotton or wool really like these. They don't want the shine, and they don't necessarily want the novelty shapes. So there are 5 shapes, 5 sizes of circles in that package, but again 2 shades. Lemon Drop, both party, smoothie, and this is the snack pack. The snack
This is
pack,
my favorite.
we call it snack pack because there's just enough buttons in there to do 1 or 2 projects, just a taste of Lemon Drop. And then these little jewels, these are sprinkles.
And they're tiny, and I know a lot of my friends who do applique use these as accents, like on the little snowmen. So these are really popular with applique quilts.
And they are the same as adding just a touch of embroidery. They just want a tiny little detail where you want just one more thing.
And today she's going to be using Aurifil thread, 50 weight. That's going to be the weight that you want to use. And she's using the John James Pebble Sharps needle. So she's going to show us how to attach buttons next.
Okay, so I have my needle already threaded. We like a Sharps needle. The clay buttons have very tiny holes. Sometimes
tiny.
we have people call and say, I can't see the hole, I think you missed it. But they need to put on their glasses because they are there. Okay. Because we have both clay buttons and dyed buttons, we like to combine them too. So I'm actually going to show you how to sew a clay button on top of a dyed button. All right, so wherever you want your button, it doesn't matter. Take 1 tiny stitch on the right side of the fabric. And then before you pull it all the way through, see I've used a double strand of thread. I'm going to go through.
And she's got it knotted.
Right there, behind the knot. And pull it down next to the fabric. Take 1 more tiny stitch in the same spot. I do not want that button to come off later. Okay, so now my fabric has the thread securely attached. I'm going to cut off just 1 tiny little tail left there, and then I'm ready to attach the button. Now we chose yellow because the yellow button is going to go on top of the teal, but that doesn't mean that you couldn't sew this on with
Teal thread.
yeah, you could sew it on with teal thread, you could sew it on with something contrasting. Sometimes I get really tricky if I have a whole bunch of buttons to go on a project that's multicolored. I'll sew them all on with white cotton thread, and then I take my colored pencils and go back and color the threads to match each button afterwards. But that's the lazy man's way of doing it. Okay, so when I have a 4-hole button, I like to sew the X. So I'm going to go through opposite holes, take 1 tiny stitch.
Okay, so this is interesting because when I've put buttons on, I always just try to go exactly where that hole is, and that's not what you're doing, so that's great to know.
Well, I've estimated the distance right there and taken that stitch right there, and that's my baseline on the back for, I'm going to try to make it look nice and neat. Okay, so come back up through the first hole again. The reason I'm doing it this way is because I can actually sew buttons to a project that's already stuffed, like a little pillow.
Okay.
See how I can move it up and down like that? All right, so now the button is flat
Okay.
against there. The thread is snug. Now I'm going to go back down and try to hit that same spot on the back, because that's what makes it look really neat, so that you can sew your buttons on with thread on your quilt and have it look nice and neat on the back. Okay.
So how many different times do you go through?
If I have a big button like this, I want the threads to show, so I'll probably sew it 3 times. But if I have a tiny little button like this, no more than 2.
Okay.
For one thing, those are small holes, and you only want the thread to fill the hole. You don't want to break the button by trying to push it through too many times. Okay. Oh. Now, I'm going to go back through the same spot, but not come up through the hole of the button. I'm coming up under the button.
So, but the same exact hole.
Right, on the back, so that it looks nice and neat. Okay, so now it's just loose back there, and I'm going to come up through, I'm going to do a cross on the back. And I'm going to pick this spot to come out on the back so that it looks neat. And sure enough, when I come back on the front, I'm in the same hole. Try not to sew the edge of the fabric into that. All right, so 1, 2. Yep, it's in the right spot. Okay, so looks like I didn't pull my threads all the way through. There we go. And then back this way. Okay, now since I'm sewing another button on there, I'm not going to go ahead and do that third stitch there. I need that little yellow flower that's hopping around on the table. Now it's very tricky to sew up through one hole here and go down through this. If you want to center it, you can do that, but I'm an asymmetrical person, so I'm going to sew both of these buttonholes up and down through the one hole right here.
And on these buttons, the clay buttons, there's not a right or wrong side, right?
No, the design goes all the way through. And we're going to do a button demonstration video, I think, later, and you'll be able to see how that design goes all the way through. And that's really cool because if I'm making a mitten button, the same button will work for a right mitten or a left mitten. All right. All right, so now I have a thread through both holes on the flower. I'm going to go back down. Yep, I'm coming out at the right spot, so that's good. Now if I put my hand inside here, it helps keep that thread from tangling as I pull it through. That's the tricky part about having a double thread, is you just have to make sure it doesn't tangle. Okay, so now we have the flower, and then I can do the same thing again. Make sure it's really attached.
And you're going back through the same hole.
I'm going back through the same hole. Same hole on the teal button and the yellow button both. Snug, but not tight enough to break the thread. And then I need to go back down one more time. Okay, neat on the back. Okay, and then I want to come up behind the big button again.
Okay.
Because this is how you avoid having a knot on the back of your fabric. So now I'm putting my needle behind the button, only catching the threads that you can see back there. And before I pull that loop tight, I'm going to thread my needle through it.
And it's creating a knot.
It's creating a knot.
That you won't see on the top.
Right. I'm going to do it one more time. And if you're making an item that's going to get a lot of use, maybe a lap quilt, a little pillow that you're going to move around a lot, you can put a drop of fray check.
Okay.
On the X on the back. And then clip the thread behind the button, and you have no knot showing on either side.
So thanks for showing us how to attach buttons. I know we've all learned something from this. Make sure to check out all the other Just Another Button Company videos also.